I'm pretty sure that Beep is down.
I sense Count Dooku is above us.
Oh, yes, you're right. Beep is up.
What would the Star Wars universe be without Astromech Droids? Ever since 1977, R2-D2 has been synonymous with Star Wars, arguably second only to Darth Vader as a symbol for the franchise. And yet throughout the entire series, we've never actually even heard a single word that R2 has said. Or have we? Today we are taking a look at droid speak and whether or not the characters in-universe can understand them.
Can you understand what he's saying?
I'm not a protocol droid.
So for those of you who are longtime fans of the channels, you know that I am not usually a big fan of when characters in-universe can understand astromech droids, and maybe I'm just a little bit of a purist, but primarily that's because if you look at the original 6 movies, it is very clear that organic beings cannot understand astromech. It is not a language that you can learn. It's not something that you can pick up or cipher on your own. You either need a protocol droid or a pocket translator, as seen in the deleted scene from Revenge of the Sith. Now, when I have said that offhand, the big go-to argument is, well, I remember times when Luke could understand R2, or even I remember times when Anakin could understand R2, and to that, I would like to point you to the specific scenes you're talking about. See, if you go back through A New Hope, it is very consistent that the only person who can understand R2-D2 is C-3PO alone. However, the first time we see an organic being understand R2-D2 is actually in The Empire Strikes Back, and it's when Luke is going to Dagobah to find Master Yoda. R2 beeps something to Luke, and Luke responds, making it clear that he knows what R2-D2 is saying, and this has led many people to believe that Luke has somehow learned how to understand R2-D2, and there's a very good reason for assuming this. R2 talks, and Luke acts like he knows what he's saying, but if you pay attention, every time R2 speaks, before responding, Luke looks down at his console at where we can infer there is a translation of R2 on the screen. And this can be concluded with absolute certainty because it's easy to miss, but at the very beginning of the scene in Empire Strikes Back, it actually opens with showing us R2 speaking. Immediately following that is a shot of the console on the X-Wing where R2's translation is coming up. And that brings us to Return of the Jedi. In Return of the Jedi, where once again Luke returns to Dagobah and R2-D2 speaks to Luke, and this time the camera makes an explicit effort to show us R2-D2's translation on the console of the X-Wing. See, it's not that Luke has somehow learned how to understand R2, it's the X-Wing knows how to understand R2, and the X-Wing is translating R2 on the screen for Luke to read. Which brings us to The Phantom Menace, the second big example of a character being able to understand R2-D2, and that is specifically when Anakin does pod racing in Zero-G.
Now this is pod racing!
And at a casual glance, it would look like Anakin is somehow able to understand astromech, despite being the fact that he grew up in basically a junkyard.
Go back? Qui-Gon told me to stay in this cockpit, so that's what I'm gonna do.
Well, actually, the film makes it pretty clear by making a conscious decision to show us the console of the Naboo starfighter while R2 is talking. In fact, I can tell you exactly what R2 is saying. He is saying, Anakin, turn the ship around and go back home right away. This was put in there on purpose to show us that starfighters had the ability to translate droid speak so that organics could understand it. This remains consistent throughout the entire prequel trilogy. In fact, one of my favorite deleted scenes, at least for the laughs, is this deleted scene where we see that the reason that Anakin and Obi-Wan are able to understand R2-D2 while on board the Invisible Hand at the opening of Revenge of the Sith is because the comlink has a built-in translator on board that has this little tiny screen that you can read the words as they are coming through. At one point in the deleted scene, the translator becomes broken and they are unable to understand what R2 is trying to tell them, leading to shenanigans.
No text. It's broken. Can you understand what he's saying?
I'm not a protocol droid.
So when did this change? Well, we can thank a lot of ancillary materials such as video games like Knights of the Old Republic 2 and Star Wars The Old Republic and lots of other sources that all come away with the very common misconception that some organics are just special enough to know how to understand what beep brr means. Famously, in Knights of the Old Republic 1, one of the interesting things about T3M4 is that Revan can't understand him, despite the fact that he is proficient in pretty much every other language in the game. T3 remains the only character in the game that can never be translated for. The only other language that Revan himself is unable to learn is the language of the Tusken Raiders. KOTOR 2 changed this, showing us that the Jedi Exile was able to understand T3. However, it's implied through the journal entries that the reason she's able to understand T3 is because she looted a translating vocabulator from the first HK unit that she encountered. This unit is what allows Mitra Surik to understand all the various languages throughout the entirety of KOTOR 2, unlike Revan, who used a specific power in the Force to basically gain an understanding of that person's language by ripping it out of their mind. The first real change in the direction that people could understand Astromech was actually in Star Wars The Old Republic, where all of the language spoken by the Astromech droids is actually translated in the subtitles. This actually marks the only time on screen that droid speak is translated in the subtitles. We never see that in any other Star Wars material. Furthermore, this was compounded again by The Force Awakens, where it made even less sense because Rey is able to understand BB-8 immediately, despite the fact that BB-8 is one, a new model, so therefore that language wouldn't have been around for very long. 2, she grew up on a planet where droids would literally be disassembled for parts on site, so I don't think she would have had much experience with droids speaking droid speak, even if a human organic being was physically capable of learning what a droid was saying. But no, she's able to understand him absolutely perfectly and with no explanation whatsoever. It's this sort of lack of attention to detail that feels a lot like fanfiction in the way that, without paying super close attention to movies, the average fan would think that when there's a connection between a droid and its owner, it's much like the connection between a dog and its owner, except for the fact that you can actually and literally understand what that droid is saying. Now, of course, you can very easily get the tone of what they're trying to say. For instance, I don't think there's any way to misinterpret this. But that doesn't translate to an actual set of words, more of just the emotion behind it. So while you can get a sense that this Astromech droid is uncomfortable, or uneasy, or excited, you might not know the exact words that he's using to represent those emotions, not without plugging him into a Starship translator, or having a protocol droid or a comlink that is able to translate what that droid is saying. Currently, right now, canon is a big fat mess regarding the question, can organic beings understand Astromech? If you were to look at the original trilogy, the answer is an absolute no. There is no way that an organic being can learn how to speak Astromech, because you would imagine if anyone could or would have put that time and effort in, it would have been Anakin. So why does he still need translators in Revenge of the Sith? However, if we're looking at some of the other materials that are out in canon, such as the sequel trilogy, or other materials that are out in Legends, such as Star Wars The Old Republic, you will get a different answer, an answer that says yes, that somehow there is an actual way that an organic being can discern one boop from another beep, and know exactly what words those droids are trying to say. This is a hot mess of a topic, and I really hope we get some sort of clarity and consolidation that doesn't contradict the existing material in the original trilogy. But I want to know what you guys think. Do you think that this breaks canon in a significant way? I don't think it's too significant, but it's just one of those little irritants for me that just kind of grinds my gears. So I want to know if this bothers you as much as it does me. Let me know those thoughts down in the comments below, because as always, I want to know what you, my friends, have to say about our favorite galaxy far, far away. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed, or if you learned absolutely nothing new, you can feel free to leave a thumbs down, completely guilt-free, because that tells me I'm not doing my job. Thank you again for watching, and as always, may the lore be with you, now and forever.